Good morning. Today I am going to start my first lecture, that is I am going to introduce the concept of knowledge management, and then I will also discuss that why knowledge management is required by the organization. In the next I will be discussing about the system life cycle, that how knowledge management system is developed over a period of time, and then why organizations are looking for aligning knowledge management with business strategy. So, this is how I am going to introduce this concept of knowledge management, and then you can see that how this knowledge management has evolved over a period of time. Now, what is knowledge? If you look at the concept of knowledge, it has a origin what you call a genesis from the data. So, the first stage is data. Data is something which is unprocessed. It could be related to facts or events or anything like that. Say for example, I say the number of students in the class. So, I say 15 or 20, it means that I am talking about the data, but it is not a processed fact, but this data is converted into information when we try to organize this data into a meaningful way. So, for example, if we say there are 15 students in the class, then we can classify or organize them into different categories, like how many boys are there, how many girls are there, right. So, in that way this becomes the information. Now, this information becomes knowledge when it is contextual, relevant and actionable. What I mean to say by saying that it is contextual, relevant and actionable is that when information is used in a particular context, right. For example, you know that in this institute the number of girls students are less, or the number of girls students is 20% and 80% students are there. Now, how we are going to use this information for taking certain actions? So, it has to have a context and it must be relevant. It means that you are going to make use of it, and then that information you can act upon it. That is why we say that it should be actionable also. So, when we are converting information into knowledge, there is a very thin difference between information and knowledge. That is, information is an organized data, but when we make use of that information in a particular context which is good for you or the organization, then it becomes a knowledge. Let me give another example. Say you know that how to write a software code. You are a software engineer. Now, as a software engineer, you are going to write a code, and for that what kind of information that you need, that how to write a code. So, you have knowledge, information about what? Programming languages, but this programming languages is just give you information about the way to write a program in a particular context. Now, suppose your organization asks you to write a program for a customer for a particular a specific act. Now, this becomes the context, that what is the use of it, why you are going to write it, and then when you write a program that is going to be useful to the customer using your coding information, then it becomes an action. Now, this knowledge has certain characteristics, like it has a strong experiential and reflective elements. What does it mean? When we say that it has a strong experiential and reflective elements, it means the information that you make use is and convert it into a knowledge, it is based on what you call experience. So, out of experience your knowledge accumulates, it means your capacity to convert information into knowledge improves. Second is it has a reflective element. Reflective element means that you are going to reflect on certain things based on the information. Suppose you have certain information that this is going to happen in the organization. You know that the new technology has come. Now, how this technology is going to affect your organization? So, you are going to reflect upon that, and then you see that whether you are going to make use of that technology or not. So, it has a reflective element also. And why companies are going for using knowledge? Because knowledge provides you a good leverage. It means, with the help of this knowledge you can have a competitive edge over your competitors. It could be individuals, it could be groups, or even it could be organizations, and it can provide you better returns. So, the objective of having a knowledge management system is to see that how you can make use of knowledge to achieve competitive advantage, to get better returns, to increase your efficiency and productivity, and that is why we are using this knowledge management system. The next characteristic is that it is dynamic. What do you mean by say that when it is dynamic? Okay. Dynamic means what? The dynamic means that the nature of knowledge keep on changing. Okay. The kind of knowledge that we used to have in 70s or 80s or 90s related to any domain has gone under significant change. So, that is why we say that the nature of knowledge keep on changing. Let me give an example. If you look at Google, which provides you a lot of information about a particular activities. Now, when we say that it is dynamic, if you look at the nature of knowledge on any subject or any domain and you search on Google, you will find latest information or latest knowledge in that particular field. What does it mean? It means that the nature of knowledge keep on changing, because it is updated over a period of time. So, your new knowledge is coming, which could be more useful, more relevant, and also if you look at the last point, that is it evolves over time with experience. The nature of knowledge keep on changing, and as you grow, as you learn, as you experience, the kind of knowledge that you accumulate and store with you keep on changing. So, knowledge is very important, and that is why we are going to have this course on knowledge management, that how we are going to manage this knowledge in a world which is going to change because of the technology, because of the economy, because of the environment. Okay. And that is why we have a course on knowledge management. I hope that it is going to be useful to you. So, it is also human capital. Why we say that it is a human capital? Because knowledge resides with the people. It could also reside with the group, or it could reside with the organization. So, when we say that knowledge is a human capital, it means the knowledge mostly resides with the people. Now, if you want to see the difference between knowledge management and the information and the knowledge, it is the level of understanding. So, information just provides you a set of data into an organized and meaningful way, but when you are going to make use of that information for doing or for acting or making certain decisions, then it becomes knowledge. Okay. Now, we will see the difference between the different kind of concepts that we have been using, starting with facts, that is the data, information, knowledge, wisdom, or something more to that. Now, if you look at this hierarchy, it is a pyramid, it suggests that the bottom of it is the information, facts, that is the data. Okay. From facts, we move to the next stage, that is information, that is the meaningful organization of the data. Then we move to the intelligence. Then intelligence is that how we are going to make use of it. It shows your ability to make use of that information for doing certain actions, and when you do it, it means that you are going to infer something from the data based on your ability, that is your mental intelligence or mental ability, and that is what we call knowledge. Moving to the next is wisdom. So, when you have done something, then you experience enlightenment. So, that is what we call wisdom, and then you move to further. Now, if you look at the two lines that is drawn parallelly along with this pyramid, it shows two things. One is that volume, completeness, and objectivity. If you look at these things, what is happening? The arrow is coming from top to bottom. It means at the bottom of the pyramid you will find data which is more objective, which is more complete. The more you move up, okay, the level of completeness goes down. Okay. So, it means that in terms of volume, completeness, and objectivity, facts are at the best, okay, and then you move up in the hierarchy. but at the same time when you look at the value, okay, the value resides more in knowledge, wisdom and something like that. But if you look at the structure, it is less structured, it is more subjective, because the data and the information that we have is more organized and complete and more structured compared to the knowledge, because we are going to make use of that in a particular context and the kind of wisdom that we have. Okay. So, if you look at the difference in terms of objectivity and subjectivity, you will find that data is more objective, while knowledge, and when you move beyond knowledge, is more subjective. Okay. Moving to the next part. Now, I am going to show you something. It is a cartoon, and this cartoon has a source from Cleveland, which clearly shows the difference between information, knowledge and wisdom. Now, look at the information, the first cartoon. What does it show? It is getting all kind of input from different sources, that is the input. Now, he is going to make use of that input to act on that. So, if the inputs are, say, lights are there, grass is there, sunlight is there, it is raining, all kind of information that he has. So, he is going to make use of that, like rabbits are grass, eats grass, grass grows in soil, rains from the clouds, okay, wolves eat rabbits. So, this is a knowledge, but he is moving beyond knowledge and what we call wisdom. So, he said that, okay, with this knowledge, if I act upon, suppose if I kill off all the wolves, the rabbits will eat up the grass and soil will all wash away. So, this is the wisdom. So, this wisdom gives you say some kind of alignment or an experience that, okay, how we are going to have this knowledge for use of individuals, groups and the organizations. Now, based on this, let us say that what are the different types of knowledge that we have. Now, when we are talking about types of knowledge, okay, this is actually classified into 3 different categories, that is whether the knowledge at the surface level or at the deep level. Okay. So, that is what we call shallow or deep. Shallow knowledge means that you have very superficial knowledge about a particular thing, and the deep knowledge is that you have very good knowledge which is acquired through learning, through experience, right, and that is the difference between the shallow and the deep knowledge. Next is explicit and tacit knowledge. I will discuss about explicit and tacit in more detail, but here what I want to say is explicit, that is codified in some form, it is documented knowledge which is available to you in form of books, manuals, guidelines and these kind of things, while when I am talking about tacit knowledge, it is embedded in the mind. What does it mean? Tacit knowledge is that kind of knowledge actually which resides in the mind of the people. Another way to differentiate knowledge is procedural episodic. Procedural means how to do certain things. Okay. Episodic, that you have learned through your experiences, memories and these kind of things. Okay. And then the question is that how are going to chunk the knowledge which could be useful to you. Now, if you look at these differences across knowledge from procedural to episodic, you can see that on the right side it shows shallow to deep knowledge. When we say shallow to deep knowledge, it means that the knowledge from the surface level moves to a deeper level depending upon your learning, your experience, your knowledge, your skill and these kind of things. Now, when I am saying procedural knowledge, that is much more shallow, it only tells you how to perform a task, right. Suppose I am going to use this computer to write something in a word. It means that the kind of knowledge that is required is actually is motor in nature, okay, which I can use any time if I want to use this computer for writing anything. So, knowledge of how to do a task, that is essentially motor in nature. So, same knowledge is used over and over. So, whenever I want to write, I will open the computer, there is a fixed procedure which is known to me. I will go through this procedure, open the word file and make use of it to write it. So, that is what we call procedural knowledge, which is at the surface level. Now, but I do not know how this computer works. So, that is basically the deep knowledge, I will talk about it later. Now, second is declarative knowledge. So, this is declarative knowledge that is available with you whenever you want to recall it. So, that is related to your short term memory. okay, which you can easily remember, which can be retrieved from your say memory. Okay. And it is good because at the first stage you should know, okay, what is there which you can easily remember, which is going to be useful for you and which can be used by you for doing certain things. So, that is what we call declarative knowledge, which is known to you, which is available to you in your short term memory. So, at a moment's reflection you can get them. Okay. Now, moving to the next part, that is semantic knowledge. Now, semantic knowledge is what? Semantic knowledge is basically when you move further to the deeper part of the knowledge, that is semantic knowledge, and this kind of knowledge suggests that the knowledge is organized and classified into different categories based on the nature of the concepts, whether it is a fact, whether it is a concept or whether it is a relationship. So, based on these concepts, facts and relationship, you are going to organize knowledge into different category. So, it is basically related to organization, classification and codification of knowledge. So, it helps you to retrieve knowledge from your database, from your memory or whatever it is. Now, next is episodic knowledge. What is episodic knowledge? That is organized not by concepts and relationships, but it is more experientialist nature. Okay. It is chunked by episodes. Okay. So, you remember certain episodes which are related to C. So, when you talk to your supervisor, you based on your experience you say that. So, in these conditions these are the things that need to be done, and that is how we should go about it. So, it is based on your memory which is there, and what you do, you retrieve that information based on your intuition, experience and learning, and that is much more compiled. Okay. And but it is not very easy to extract or capture, because it is in your long term memory and it is very difficult sometimes to retrieve that kind of information, but you need to do it because that is very very useful. Okay. And that is at the deeper level. That is how we have decided to see that how the knowledge moves from the shallow to deep, and what are the different type of knowledge from procedure to episodic. Next. Now, when I was talking about two different kind of knowledge, that is explicit and tacit. Now, let me put some more observations related to explicit and tacit knowledge. Now, when I am talking about explicit knowledge, it deals with objective, rational and technical knowledge. For example, the goals, objectives, papers, reports. So, most of the explicit knowledge is actually available in documented form. For example, a book in the library. So, whatever information is available, it is explicitly given in the book and you can have it. So, it is explicit in the sense that you can go through it, you can read it, you can make use of it, okay, and you can easily codify it. So, library itself is an example of explicit knowledge, because the books are organized and classified using a coding system, and that is why we say that it is more structured. So, explicit knowledge is more structured and it is organized, codified and classified in such a way, so that retrieval is very very easy. Okay. You can easily manipulate it, share it, taught it or learn it. Okay. Moving from explicit to tacit knowledge, and when I am talking about tacit knowledge, it is very very unstructured, highly unstructured you can say, because it resides in the head of the people. Okay. So, once it resides in the head of the people, it means that it is subjective, it is based on the experience, knowledge and intuition that a person has, right, and it is not documented in any form. So, you cannot get it easily, right, and it is very very personal, because it is with me or it is with you on how to do it, but the processes are not documented in a particular form. Say for example, if a person does certain things using certain processes, now these processes are known to that person only. If that process is known to that person only, then what will happen? He will use those processes to perform the job, but these processes are in the mind of that particular individual on how to do it. It is not available in a documented form. Okay. So, it is not formalized or documented, because it is very very personal the way the person is doing the job. And what is there in when you say that it is tacit? It could be related to your experiences, the mental maps that you form about doing certain things, your insights, your expertise, your how to do things, secrets related traits, okay, your skill set, understanding, your comprehension ability. Okay. So, all this is related to tacit knowledge. So, now what we have done, that we have tried to examine what is knowledge and what are the different types of knowledge. See, the most important thing here is to talk about explicit and tacit knowledge. Okay. So, explicit is that is available in some form, tacit is that is not available, which is not formal, which is with the people, right. Now, let us look at some of the principles on which this knowledge management system works. Okay. Now, why we are talking about knowledge management system at all today? Okay. So, here I am going to talk about certain principles related to knowledge, so that you can build an effective knowledge management system. The first principle says that knowledge influences success. Now, whether you are talking about explicit knowledge or tacit knowledge, both are required, and if you have this kind of knowledge, it is going to help you to bring success to you in terms of achievements, achieving goals and objectives that you have, whatever it is. So, knowledge is going to influence your success. So, if you have the knowledge, whether in explicit form or tacit form, it helps you to achieve success in terms of achieving your goals and objectives or whatever is there. Now, another important thing is that which knowledge is more important, tacit knowledge or explicit knowledge. When I am saying tacit knowledge or explicit knowledge, since we have identified these two type of knowledge, tacit is something that is personal and explicit is that is codified. Why I am saying codified? Because it is available in a form that is documented either as a video or as a book or in digital form, so that it is available to others for use. But personalized knowledge is with the person and it is not available to use for others. Okay. So, the personalized knowledge and explicit knowledge both are very, very important. What is to be done is we have to see that how to formalize the knowledge that resides in the head of the people. So, there is a need to see that how we can transform this tacit, which is more personal in nature, into some explicit form. That is very, very important. Now, so we have been talking about codified and personalized knowledge, that one that is explicit, the other one that is tacit. Now, there is a need to have more explicit knowledge which could be used by others, because if knowledge is available only in the tacit form, then others may not be able to use it. So, the idea is to transform tacit knowledge into explicit form. How does it happen? That is through sharing. So, when we share our knowledge with others, then others also come to know about that thing. So, it is very, very important to share our knowledge with each others. Okay. Now, there are two ways to share the knowledge. It could be using face to face or at a personal level, or you also use technology to share knowledge. Now, when you are going to share knowledge at a personal level, it is going to be more tacit, because you are passing on that knowledge from one person to another person. Okay. But again it is not going to be available in explicit form. Now, in order to make it available in explicit form, you are going to make use of technology. Okay. So, if you are going to record certain processes of doing certain things, then that knowledge that related to that particular process is captured using a technology. So, technology becomes the carrier, the means of expression of that particular knowledge or the process, right. Now, when you want to share knowledge with other person, especially at the personal level, what does it requires? It requires trust. So, if you have trust on the other person, only then you share knowledge with the other person. But if the knowledge is available in explicit form, then these things may not be required, because then it is available in some form and you can make use of it. Now, when we are talking about knowledge management, okay, then you have to see that whether organizations are going to make use of knowledge, whether they are going to have a knowledge management system or not, right, and whether they want to make use of knowledge in order to create, innovate and perform well, right. So, most of the organizations today which are working in a knowledge economy are going to be called a knowledge intensive organizations, and most of these knowledge intensive organizations like IT companies, okay, R&D institutions, the labs, okay, they are into this business of knowledge management, and they have developed and created systems for knowledge management, and for that they have created a framework that how they are going to acquire, create, store and disseminate, so that that knowledge can be used, and that is what is the last point, that KM has a planned architecture which helps you to retrieve and make use of knowledge from the storage. Now, these are the different sources or where the knowledge is there, and that is what we call knowledge reservoirs. So, knowledge is residing with artifacts, organizations and the people. So, if you look at people level, the knowledge resides with the individuals and also groups. If you look at the artifacts, so that is in the processes, the repositories of the organizations, the kind of technology that an organization uses. So, artifacts are basically related to systems and processes and repositories of the organization where the knowledge resides. Now, knowledge also resides with the departments, the units and the networks that organization build up over a period of time. Okay. So, there could be different reservoirs of knowledge where knowledge is available. Now, if you look at the knowledge assets or different kind of knowledge assets that we have, it could be classified as I already told you, that is codified or personalized knowledge. Codified knowledge is basically that kind of knowledge which is owned by the organization, but the personalized knowledge or other form of knowledge is not legally owned, and it is retained by different sets of people or groups or the organizations. Now, most of the codified knowledge which is legally owned by the organizations may include patents, copyrights, trademarks, documents, and this is very important, because unless you have these things you cannot grow and develop yourselves, okay? And that is why you have copyrights for books, you have trademarks, you have trade secrets, you have patents, okay, which you can make use of it, and this is your asset in terms of knowledge, but that is only a part of it. Most important is what you call other form of knowledge, which is lying in relationships, communities of practices which people follow, the best practices, the benchmarks, the experiences, expertise and other theoretical knowledge, the databases which is there with the organization. Now, the thing is that we need to ensure that how to make use of a large chunk of these kind of things which is related to relationships, practices, experiences and database, to convert them into a formal system of knowledge that is more explicit, which can be used by the organization. Okay.